This week I wanted to work on maybe some lower gain tones. Last week I started messing around with this Tele and working with the Axe effects to try to get something that was really smooth, um, you know, that warm, mid-rangey kind of sound. So I had this in my head, this sound, and I kind of lost track of time, and I had to go to work. So a few days later, actually last night, I was watching this video, and it was suggested to watch this Anderton's video. You may have seen it, but they're in the studio, and you're basically advertising for their Apollo X interfaces. I've messed with the smaller Apollo ones. I've got a friend of mine that has one. Great stuff, but so I was watching the video. He came with this part, and he was playing a Tele through this Victory V40 amp. So I'll bring up the video here. But yeah, he started to play this one part, and let's see, it's over at 250. Let's get it right after Lee plays. Let's see if we can get it. So they're playing this song close to you, and it shows the gear that he uses. He's recording into the Dane pedal, which I was not familiar with that pedal, into his Victory amp, and captured into this universal audio aux reactive load. So when I heard this tone, I was like, and I was listening through my headphones, I was like, that is the tone that was in my head. This really warm, almost breathy. It's hard to describe it, but that tone where it's not a lot of high end, and it just sits well and sounds it's very low gain. So I said, well, I have a Tele, so let's see if I can get this. So before we jump in and I show you kind of how I got this tone, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment if you want. I started out, I said, okay, let me figure out what kind of mic he may be using, and if I know the reactive load, that universal audio, it's usually like a 57-121 combination. I ended up finding this 121 cabinet, and I should have mixed it with 57, but I didn't realize till after I was done. I was like, shoot, I dialed in this tone, and it's just the 121, the what cabinet. So I started out with that first. Started and added added a couple cabinets that were 121s to figure out what he may be, or to get closer to that sound. And I said, well, I'm going to add, I looked up these Victory amps, and it's kind of it does anything from your Fender style clean to some of those, to Marshall-y kind of tones. So I said, well, let's grab a Fender. So I ended up grabbing this Fender. You can see it's not on that, and I'll tell you why. So I said, well, let's try this 59 bass guy. Let's go to this 65, let's try those two. Ended up settling on the 65 for a while and started really tweaking things, and at the end when I put it with my little Pro Tools loop that I was doing, it just wasn't feeling right and didn't feel as smooth, a little too much bite, and so I was trying to dial that out and it just wasn't working. So I started discovering, trying to find another amp. I tried that JTM 45, I tried the Bogner Ecstasy, the blue here, the Euro Blue. Then I came over and I was like, you know what? I remember playing this Dr. Z a long time ago, and it was at Guitar Center. It was, I don't know if it looked like a 15-inch, but I'm sure it was a 12. I don't even remember what it was, but I felt I could not leave that room. I was playing this amp, and it just had this. It was kind of the first time I had really discovered this clean compression feel that you would get. So that's kind of what I said, well, let's try this. And I ended up coming up, and you can see that I ended up on this Dr. Z, is it Maz 38, I'm guessing that's it. I don't know much about the amps, but it seemed to get that tone that I liked. So I'm on the neck pickup. And what I did was I started out, I didn't even add the reverb or delay. I just really wanted to focus on getting that tone. And like I said, once I started playing to it, I really had to go in and adjust things to get that feel. This is a tone that's dialed in at a low volume, so if you're trying to use this, I'm going to include the preset in the description. If you try to grab this and maybe play with it live, you may have to tweak some things down, like we've talked about this Fletcher Munson thing. It may not be quite as prominent in the lower gain ones, but you may hear some of those lows and highs creep in that are not desirable, and you kind of back some of that stuff off. So I ended up sticking with this, and then it was, let's really focus on the feel of this and try to get that feel. This first opening section that he does, I kept dialing it in based on that. I must have repeated this like 500 times. And then I started to play the pentatonic up here. I've kept in the same, it's E flat minor pentatonic, so I kind of kept this with the song. And then I recorded my loop in the same key. But, you know, the problem was is when I came up here, the dynamics just, every time I would play, I would tweak some of the drive and some of the amps input drive as well. I messed with the master to try to get that feel. It's about as close as I can get right now without throwing my guitar through a window. It wasn't that bad. It's just, you know, you can tweak so much that you just lose track of what you're really trying to do, and that's play something pleasing and have something that feels nice. So when I would come up here and I would dig in, you know, when I play a lot of times I'll do a combination of, you know, alternate picking, but really digging in like staccato stuff with my right. I just kept losing this feel to that, and a lot of that had to do with the drive that I was putting in, and I tried probably most of the drives over here that were available. Ended up settling back on the original one, which was the TS-808, and I tried just a clean boost with no drive, you know, drive off, level maxed. Not quite enough bite, enough sizzle that I wanted. Grit, sorry, that was the word I was looking for. So I ended up it was really a combination of, at the end, was kind of a mixture of what I thought his tone was, and then what the tone was in my head, and then what felt right when I was playing it. I think that's important that a lot of people lose sight of, is that they just kind of maybe dial it in the way that the preset was there, or they dial it in, not dial it in, but they actually get the preset and they just live with that. And I really think for this kind of tool, you know, you have to just maybe close your eyes for a minute and use your ears. And that's what I would do. I would sit there and I would go, okay, let me try this. I'd play softer passages, maybe roll the volume, maybe roll the tone down a little bit, and just kind of play with that. And then I wanted to get a mixture of this bridge pickup as well. I wanted the bridge pickup to not be so harsh when I went to play it. That was kind of reminds me of those tones you hear like Larry Carlton, you know, the ODS, what is that? I just drew a blank on the amp, the most expensive amp in the Dumbles, right? But it has that typical, that kind of tone. Maybe that's why I was hearing that in my head. Also wanted to focus on this area down here, the pentatonic. You know, that blues note. It had to feel right when I played it. Well, just not too much gain, not, you know, not something where I couldn't dig in without those dynamics. So you want something that, like your Marshalls, right, where you play. Totally in the wrong key. in and get that tone and then back off. So let's look at this tone. Cab, yes, like I said, I probably could have paired this with the 57 and it would have sounded better. Basically, the things that you can do on the amp that I would suggest is that if you just think of this, grab the clean amp, grab your input drive, your master, and I think some of the feel that I would get would be from pushing this master where you'd get that tube breakup, the power tube breakup, and then your preamp here. For the feel of it. So if you start to notice, like for me, I wanted that section to still feel the same, but with more gain. And so sometimes I would take this up. Let's take it up kind of extreme. It's a little too fuzzy for me, so I wanted to take it, that's when I would start to come back down. If I take this back to where it was, and take my master, push my master up. Let's take it all the way up. I like to do that. So I like to feel on certain amps what the control is going to do. So I like to go in and max those kind of back and forth to kind of feel it. It's almost like sweeping frequencies to find the troublesome frequencies. So narrowing that Q, boosting it way up, and kind of sweeping until you find that nasty frequency. Well, I go extreme on this stuff too. And see what it feels like. That gets a little too harsh for me. Back it down a little bit. So I found it, maybe I think it was right here. Doesn't sound right. Let me go back to my preset here. Oh, that's where it was. And then from there, I went in. I didn't mess with anything else except the speaker drive. So let's turn that down to 0. Sounds pretty good there, but I think I took this up to 2.5. I wanted to feel some of that, compression there. And so that's why I brought it up. You can take it, actually I think it was right here. And then, so let's go over to the drive. So after auditioning several different drives here, I came back to the original one that I thought, because he's using this drive called the Dane. And it slips my mind at who makes this. Yeah, I don't know. You can look it up. That's what I did. Kind of figure out what kind of circuit it was. I wasn't sure. So, and here the only thing I did, I tried, let's do, clean boost. That didn't feel like it was enough. Let's take it on and off. Let's see, you can actually feel what it's doing here. I didn't mess with the tone too much because I did a lot of that. I wanted that warm, so I bumped these mids up pretty high. I think actually, you know what? I did. I kind of bumped these mids up here. The reverb they were using, I'm sure it was something on the Apollo, one of the plugins. I have no idea what it was. But I needed something when I was playing. If you listen by itself, it may be a lot. So I ended up settling on this concert hall. I'm sure that's probably not what they put on there. And then my delay, I like the stereo tape. I'll always like that. So I dropped that mix, as I normally do, pretty far down, 5%. Take the feedback to 10. I don't want too many repeats. Right? And like I always say, I start out really simple and just a cab block and an amp block, and I dial it in from there, and then adding the drive to to get that more of that sizzle that I want, and then adding reverb and delay later maybe. But I don't have really complex main tones. If I'm going for specific sounds, maybe I'll add some different things. But even then, I'm fairly lazy, and I just get really easy tones. I hope you got something out of it. Definitely hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and then we'll see you next week.